Hello folks and welcome back to the channel. Now recently we had a question on one of the videos showing the floor layout that I set up a few months ago, asking how long it takes me to set up the layout and how easy it is to set up the different track systems I use. Now these are the three systems: MTH Realtrax, Lionel Fastrac, Menards Tubular Track, and this is actually Lionel Tubular Track. Both companies have made tubular tracks along with some other companies over the years. Then this is 027, was not showed in any of those videos, but it's basically tubular track made out of a thinner gauge steel, and it's a lower profile. But they're basically the same systems. These two are similar but vastly different. So we'll start with Lionel Fastrac. One of the things I like about it is it does have an integrated road bed, which for a tabletop layout like this, I do not like because it makes it really loud. However, on the floor, it's really nice because it keeps the carpet fibers out underneath the plastic and not getting into your trains. So that's really nice. It's also really easy to set up. It goes together just like that. It takes you a matter of seconds, and it comes together, or it comes apart just as easily. It's a really simple system. It is a hollow rail, which most track systems are hollow nowadays, so it is what it is. So that does add to the noise factor, but it is still a really good track system. One of the things I don't like about it is the price. It is about, well, none of these have a price tag on them anymore. Some of them actually still do, but they come in around $7 a piece. Now, I haven't bought Fastrac in several years now, so there's a chance that price has possibly gone up. But yeah, still a good system. It just gets really costly when you need a lot of it. Here's another system I use. Now, I don't buy any of this intentionally. I've just gotten it with some MTH starter sets over the years. And this is MTH Realtrax. I really like it for some things, and for some things I don't like it. It does, again, like Fastrac, have an integrated road bed, which means it keeps the carpet fibers under the track and not in your trains. It's super easy to put together, and then to take it apart, instead of pulling straight out, you actually pull up on it, and you get that bending motion in the joint, and that's actually what releases the track, is doing this. Right, so it's a really good system. Now, the older track is often thought to be better, because you can see the old rails are solid and the new rails are hollow, which does make this louder. I still think Realtrax is quieter than Fastrac overall, but still plastic road bed, which does echo sound, and those hollow rails that they're now making do make it worse. But if you can get your hands on some of the old stuff, it's still good. One of the things I don't like about, though, because of the way the track system's actually designed to come apart, when you set it up on like a trestle system or something, the trains are trying to push weight down, and you get the train trying to push the track down, and it can sometimes come apart like this, and you'll get kind of that split like that from the weight pushing the track down the joint. So it's really important to have a trestle underneath the joint of the track and not just somewhere else. So you can't do long stretches without having a trestle. Fastrac is a little bit more forgiving, but even that's not great. So there is that. But it's still a good system. The other thing I don't like about it is because there's no joint, no pins that go from one rail to the next, and it's just the electric connection is actually just through these little copper and brass teeth. In my experience, the brass teeth are better than the copper ones. But yeah. And because of that, the rails don't always join upright, so you get kind of a weird angled rail, and especially with these hollow rails, they don't line up right, and the trains tend to jump on them. It's not terrible, but it is kind of jarring, and I don't really like that. One of the things that is nice, though, about both Lionel Fastrac and Realtrax is it's super easy to insulate. It's easiest to insulate these tracks, and what insulating is, you isolate. The center rail has your hot wire, or your ground, and then this has the other, so negative, positive, or vice versa. I can't remember exactly which way it goes, but you don't need all three rails. You just need the center rail and one of these outside rails which means you can insulate this rail, for instance, and you can operate the operating accessory off that. It's super easy to insulate these tracks because all you gotta do is fold one of these teeth back and it won't touch the other tooth on this track, and you've now just insulated one of the rails. You have to do it on both sides. And that's super easy. On Fast Track it's a little harder, especially if you don't have a Dremel, because there are teeth going from, or pins going from one rail to the other. So you either have to take these pins out, or you have to take a Dremel and put a slice in the rail. And then to insulate the two rails, because they do have a joint bar, you either have to pull these pins up and take the plate out, or you have to take your Dremel and put a slice in it to insulate it. And that's easy if you have a Dremel. Otherwise, it's a little more work. But for floor layout, you don't really do that anyway, so neither one of those really matter. But those are some of the things I like and dislike about these systems. Now, my favorite system is actually the simple tubular track. The reason for that is it's very easy to put together. I mean, it's just pins and you push two pieces together and it's done. The thing I don't like about it is there's no integrated roadbed, which means carpet fibers can get in your trains. You'll see in the videos I actually had cardboard that I had painted gray, and I had put the cardboard underneath the track. And that is something you could do. It just requires you to get more creative, which there's nothing wrong with getting creative when putting these track systems together. The thing that is a little annoying, and again just means you need to work harder, if you want to insulate one of these rails, it is as simple as taking out one of these pins, but because there's metal ties, it carries the power from this rail to that rail via this tie. The center rail is insulated by this little piece of, it's actually called fish paper, and it's kind of like a really heavy duty paper product. To insulate this rail, you can buy a sheet of fish paper on Amazon. It's not that expensive, and you have to pull up these tabs one by one, and every track section you want to be insulated, you have to pull up these tabs and cut out little sheets of fish paper that fit around the rail to insulate the rail. And if you have a long block, which is an insulated part of your track, that could be very time consuming. Now for a floor layout, that's not a big deal because most people don't have insulated sections on a floor layout, but that does still make it difficult. So yes. And another thing I wanted to talk about is how robust the track is. Now I got some Lionel, this is Menards tubular, and this is Lionel 027. The 027 is significantly lower profile, and it's made out of a thinner gauge steel. It's also much cheaper. And the problem I found with it before, this layout used to have the 027 up just sitting on top of these piers, but there was no wood underneath them, and the track was actually beginning to flex. And what I found was I had to put basically plywood underneath it to help have a bridge deck for the track to sit on top of, so that it wouldn't flex and warp and do all sorts of weird things, and it made it much more stable for the trains to run on. And that's one of the problems I would be worried about when using 027. Also, Real Tracks does seem to have a problem. Now if you put the piers directly underneath these whatchamacallits, the joints, you'd probably be fine. You're just going to have to put the piers underneath the joints. Otherwise you will have a problem. The track will sag in the middle. Like, I do have a bit of a problem here because it took a pier out. I'm eventually going to get a switch in there, and the switch would have hit the pier. And I do have a little bit of a problem with the flex in wood. But again, that can be solved with just thicker plywood. But if I was using tubular track like Menards track, I think it wouldn't be as big of a deal. But because of 027 things, it is. So yeah. Anyway, another very important thing to talk about with these track systems is price. Menards tubular track comes in at the cheapest. It's even cheaper in my experience than Lionel used tubular track, although I got a really good deal on this. You really got to look for the deals, where Menards tubular track is just genuinely cheaper. It's also fairly available. You can find it at Menards, or you can buy it online from Menards. Both seem to work just fine. And Menards track is, again, you have to get creative when using tubular track as a floor layout, or even on a tabletop layout with the insulated track sections, but it still can be done, and it's cheap. Now, your most expensive options are obviously going to be MTH Real Tracks and Lionel Fast Track. They're both about the same price. One thing to consider though is the switches. Switches for Real Tracks is cheaper, and from what I've heard, it is also a better switch. Lionel Fast Track switches to hold their value. Fast Track switches, but something to consider. Going back to Tubular Track, the switches, you have to get more creative with those, because I've bought guard races used. I got a good deal on these. But you do have to, again, get creative because the rail profiles are different and you'll have to make a transition section. Maybe we'll make a video on that later on. But yeah, so that is something to consider. Also, Menards has started making some of their own switches, so, you know, I don't own any, but they are a fairly good price, so you might always pick some up and try them yourself. But yeah, that is the big downfalls of these track systems. But, you know, expensive, cheap, but you have to kind of make things work if you're going with the Tubular Track, where these track systems, you can just get them all over the place. And one more thing that really bothers me is you can't cut this track system. Like, if you need like a 1/4 of an inch, you can't just cut it. Where with Tubular Track, you can. You just need a Dremel tool or a nice saw to cut it, and you could cut any length of this track that you needed, you know, an off cut. Where with this track, I would not recommend doing that. Neither would I with Fast Track. So that is one nice thing about the Tubular Track, is you can cut it. Where these track systems, they just sell different lengths. Like, you get a 10-inch section, a 30-inch section, and then you can also get 5. I think they make 4.5 different lengths, going all the way down to, I think, about 3/4 of an inch. But that is just the problem with the integrated roadbed systems. You can't cut the track without going through way more work than you would with Tubular Track. So that is something to consider. But all 3 of these track systems are very good track systems, in my opinion. Building floor layouts, I have had problems with electrical conductivity, but again, all my MTH Real Tracks is used. I have not had those problems with Fast Track or Tubular Track. Granted, some of my Fast Track I've bought new, and a lot of my Menards track I've also bought new. And it's just, again, this track's simple, and it just, you can't really mess it up. It's really rigid, it's really tough, and it's really good for building those elevated track sections. Unlike O27, where you need some sort of plywood underneath it. But those are all the kind of pluses and minuses that I can think of off the top of my head while making this video. Oh, and one more thing. If any of y'all have any questions about the different trains in the videos, and any questions about how things work, as far as the model trains go, feel free to leave those in the comment section. I would love to help anyone you know, figure out how the track systems work, or how the trains work, maybe even maintenance and whatnot. And yeah, so any questions, leave them down in the comment section down below. And as always, folks, please like, subscribe, share the video with your friends and family. And as always, folks, see you on the rails.